Okay, welcome to Capstone Week 4. This week we are covering operations and process management. The main focus areas that I'm looking at within this scope are different design methods, and specifically we're going to look at concurrent and sequential design. Look at some of the similarities and differences between the two, as well as benefits and drawbacks to each. We're also going to take a look at process innovation um, and different methods of applying process innovation as well as where it's effective. And then finally, we're going to look at quality as an overview and the role that quality plays in the process and effects that quality management can have on a business from specifically from product and process development perspective. Okay, now for design methods, the first one we want to look at is sequential design. Now, sequential design relative to product development is essentially it's your standard development method. Um, with this method, each different segment is taken in order. So, for example, a company first is going to perform their market research to determine a product, and then research and develop the product itself and determine feasibility, continue on to prototyping and marketing and so forth. Obviously, the steps can be different, but the general idea is that each step has to happen before the next step can occur down the line. Overall, this is a slower process because each step has to wait for the previous step to begin. Um, but the quality that it brings uh, ends up being higher. Another caveat with this is though it is a slower process overall, there's also a chance of needing to start over entirely. So if you're going through your prototyping and you realize that a design is not feasible, you could end up having to scrap all the work that you've done to that point and just start over from scratch, which is obviously an issue. But again, the biggest benefit is that the end result tends to be a higher quality or more well designed product. So we also want to look at concurrent design. Um, Concurrent design has the potential to be a faster overall process. So essentially what you're doing is instead of taking each operation in sequence, you try and complete as many of them simultaneously as possible. Obviously, this is more difficult to manage, and the different operations have to be very well coordinated so that you have everyone directing their efforts in the same direction towards the same goal. And you don't end up wasting efforts by having multiple departments essentially doing the same thing. The biggest potential for loss here is a lack of coordination. If people aren't working in the same direction, then you're not going to be making gains towards the end. And then the other drawback is the level of quality could potentially be lower because each step doesn't have a full understanding of what the previous step is going to look like upon completion. So that's another potential drawback with this. We also want to look at process innovation. So where the two previous techniques refer specifically to product development, process innovation can essentially take place anywhere. And it's basically the improvement of a process instead of an actual physical product. Because of the variety of scope here, this can apply to essentially any industry. And you can either be developing a new process, a new means or way of doing something, or just improving one that currently exists. Now, because of the wide variety and the wide scope where this is potentially applicable, there is the potential for overuse. So, not every process needs innovation. Some of them are just fine where they are. And when determining which ones to pursue, you have to carefully consider the cost versus the gain. So, is it going to be worth the investment? And beyond just the time required to develop and improve the process itself, you also have to consider the time and effort spent as well as any additional resources required to implement the new process once it has been developed. Just as part of the nature of the process innovation, the result is that you're going to change the way you're going to do something. So the implementation becomes very important in the success, the overall success of the potential improvement. The last aspect of operations management that we want to take a look at is quality management. Obviously, this is important because the quality is directly related to value. Without quality management, your quality is going to suffer, and realistically, your value is going to suffer. If you are not able to maintain a high quality, if you produce low quality products, you're going to suffer in that you're not going to be able to sell a product for as much, so you'll have reduced revenue. But in addition, you can have a loss of reputation because when a company is known to have good products and then they come out with a lower quality one, the consumer is going to recognize that, and you're going to lose some of the reputation that you have for producing high quality products. So low quality is a cause for concern, but too much of a focus on quality can also be detrimental. Um, when you spend too much time focusing on quality, you can have too many quality checks or too much cost associated with development, and then ultimately the cost of production for a product or a service can be too high, and the revenue that it generates as a result is not going to offset the costs. Another important thing to focus on here, now that we've seen how high and low quality can affect a business, is that different industries are going to have different quality needs. So, for example, if you're looking at a pharmaceutical company, low quality prescriptions could have either no effects or potentially negative effects. So, a high level of quality is going to be significantly more important than, say, a lumber yard where a couple of 2x4s that are a little bit squirrely or naughty isn't going to make or break a job. So the level of quality expectation is lower. So the takeaway is that while the industries may be different and the expectations for quality are going to be different among different industries, the fact remains that quality is important, and there are standard aspects of quality, meaning specifically that low quality is going to produce low value, and pricing will have to be adapted to match. This is obviously a very brief overview of quality management, but the intent is just to get the idea across that um, you can essentially have a perfect product design, but if your quality management is focused in the wrong direction, then you're not going to meet success with the product overall.